This is presentation number 1 in my new series, The Life of Yeshua. We're going to ask the question, did Yeshua travel to India? Was Yeshua the prophet Isa? I'm quoting from D. Murtagh Nicholas Notovich and the Jesus in India myth, found at https ishvarishvaran.com. Over the centuries, the claim has repeatedly been made that Jesus Christ spent his early and post-crucifixion years in a variety of places, including Egypt, India, Great Britain, Japan, and America. Popular modern literature also purports that Jesus sired children who then became the ancestors of various royal families of Europe, including France and/or elsewhere, depending on the author. According to legend, Jesus, the great Jewish sage, spent his lost years from between the ages of around 12 to 28 or 30 in India. The tale was popularized over a century ago by the Russian traveler Nicholas Notovich. Notovich asserted that in 1887, while at the secluded Hemis monastery in Ladakh, Tibet, he was shown a manuscript which discussed the unknown life of Jesus, or Isa, as he was supposedly called in the East. Here to the right, we have a picture of the Hemis monastery in Ladakh, Tibet. This text, translated for Notovich from Tibetan by a monk Lama, alleged that during his lost years, Jesus was educated by yogis in India, Nepal, and the Himalaya mountains. Now let's take a look at the legend of Saint Isa. I'm quoting from the URL that I put on the screen here. There are legends among the Buddhists through Kashmir, Ladakh, and southern Tibet of a great bodhisattva called Isa. During a trek through Central Asia, Russian physician and explorer Nicholas Notovich became the first known modern Westerner to encounter the legends of Isa. The Ladakhi legend describes a man obviously meant to represent Jesus of Nazareth. The name Isa itself is a transliteration of Jesus, identical to the one used by Muslims. The scroll describes Isa's birth in the land of Israel. At the age of 13, Jesus left home with Indian traders and traveled via ancient trade routes to India. When Jesus, now called Isa, came to India, he was educated by yogis in Vedanta. Isa began his preaching in Ladakh and surrounding regions in India. His message, according to the document, seems to be akin with that of Jesus, just transposed to Indian culture. Here are a few teachings attributed to Isa. The anger of God will soon be let loose against man, for he has forgotten his Creator. He has filled his temples with abominations, and he worships a crowd of creatures which God has made subordinate to him. Those who deprive their brethren of divine happiness shall be deprived of it themselves. The Brahmins and the Kshatras shall become the Shudras, and the Shudras and the Eternal shall dwell everlastingly. Isa, like Jesus, was a champion of the oppressed, supporting Shudra caste while denouncing the Brahmin priests and Kshatriyan rulers. Also, as Jesus once did, Isa too criticized how man has lost sight of his spirituality. This story seems to fill in the so-called lost years of Jesus from the time he was 12 until the time he began preaching, about age 30, chronicling the so-called lost years. The text itself goes on to describe Isa's return to Israel and his crucifixion. which is attributed solely to the Romans and bears no mention of the Pharisees. Here is evidence in support of Notovich's theory. Jesus in India is a treatise written by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the founder of the Ahmadiyya movement in 1889. The treatise, which was then published as a book, puts forward the view that Jesus survived crucifixion, left Judea, and migrated eastward in order to continue his mission to the lost tribes of Israel, traveling through Persia and Afghanistan and eventually dying a natural and honorable death in Kashmir at an old age. In 1922, Swami Abhedananda, a Hindu monk and disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, journeyed to Ladakh in hopes of exposing Notovich as a fraud. Abhedananda arrived at Himas and upon questioning the head Lama about Isa, was shown a manuscript which he recorded in his travel notes. It was a manuscript of 224 verses, virtually identical to the Notovich text. Abhedananda was thus convinced of the authenticity of the Isa legend. Later, in 1925, Nicholas Roerich, while on a trek to Central Asia, said he encountered the manuscript as well. One of the many purposes of Roerich's trek was to record customs and legends of the peoples of Central Asia. The Heart of Asia and Altai Himalaya, two travel diaries published by Roerich, contain tales of Isa, although Roerich stated that it could never be known whether Jesus actually traveled to India. Now I'd like to summarize the evidence that disproves Notovich's theory. You can find a summary at Wikipedia. J. Archibald Douglas, who was a professor of English and history at the Government College in Agra, visited the Hemis monastery to interview the head Lama, and he stated that Notovich had never been there and that no such documents existed. William Schneemalcher states that Notovich's accounts were exposed as fabrications and that so far no one has seen the manuscripts Notovich claims to have seen. Once his story had been re-examined by historians, Notovich is said to have confessed to lying about the evidence. As far as we know, but Buddhists have never venerated Isa. The monastery is open to all visitors and no one has ever found the manuscripts claimed by Notovich. None of the population nearby and its abbots have ever seen Notovich. The consensus view among modern scholars is that Notovich's account of the travels of Jesus to India was a hoax. I agree, it was a hoax. Please click on the Patreon link in my description just below the video to become a patron, helping to sponsor my new videos on the life of Yeshua. Thank you.